Alrighty. It is 11 in the morning on a Saturday. Why am I streaming? Because I've got everything done I wanted to in Guild Wars, and Daddy Yamato needs money. So yeah, we're gonna start the weekend off with a look at the James Tour de Farina debate from coming up on almost 2 years ago now. Time moves quickly. Um, this is legendary for James Tour going completely off the rails. Um, I don't really have too much commentary on it offhand because surprisingly, I've only watched part of it. I haven't actually gone through the whole thing. I planned to, never did, and now that I'm doing these streams and reactions all the time, I thought now might be a good opportunity to go on and just crack into it. So, gonna end the preamble here. We're gonna get right to it. Click the magic buttons. I am totally not awake enough for this, but we're gonna let it go. We're gonna do what we can do. Have fun. And yeah, I've jumped a few minutes in to skip their preamble and opening. We're getting to right where they begin to act on the stage on their own, their interactions, which begin with James giving Dave a gift, which was kind of a sweet gesture. But that's as far as anything nice in this debate goes.
8:30 time point. So once again, let's welcome the two debaters.
Thank you. Before we get started, I want to do something. I've got a gift for Mr. Farina. Now, I was thinking, what could I...
That's probably the only time we'll hear Mr. Farina in a normal tone of voice. Look at Dave. He's just like, this is awkward.
get such an amazing person? And I've got you...
Looks at the audience like, amazing person. What the hell's going on here? Like, he does not want any part of this. He just wants to get this done and go. That body language, even I can read it. I love it.
Something that I am sure you do not have. This is something called laser-induced graphene. It was a process we developed in 2013 where a laser can hit any surface that's made out of carbon, and in this case it's paper. And the laser can write a pattern. So what you're going to look at is paper that has been converted into carbon. The carbohydrates have been converted into graphene through the laser action. And so here's what we've got for you.
That's very lovely.
Now, in all seriousness, this actually is quite nice. I would be wonderfully appreciative of this. Not to say for a second that Dave isn't. I'm just saying how I would react in this situation. However, I still see it as a way to slightly butter up the audience and that, oh, James gave Dave a nice gift. Dave needs to be nicer now. So if he gets mean later on, it's because he's ungrateful and he's the bad guy here. That's the way I see this stuff. I don't even think it's necessarily intentional from James Tour's part. I think that's just a natural side effect of human behavior. And that he didn't even realize he was doing that, but setting up that slight seed of a manipulation. So, one point his way, thinking he's just doing good, but also doing that. A lot of people seem to do that subconsciously.
It's a nice gesture. Thank you. Is this on? Thank you. Thanks very much, James.
So I have 10 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Farina, as my guest, welcome to Rice University. Unlike Mr. Farina, I have never been in a debate before. So if it appears that I am not a skilled debater, it's an accurate assessment. A major hurdle for the origin of life research is the origin and persistence of enantiopure molecules. The building blocks of the building blocks, as I call them. Enantiopurity means that one mirror image of a molecule prevails to the exclusion of the other. This includes 19 of the 20 amino acids, the monomeric sugars, the nucleotides, and the lipids. But for the sake of getting through, I am conceding tonight to my opponent all those small molecules in 100% enantiomeric purity. They are yours. I concede them to you for the sake of time. So let's address other issues tonight, since my concession has been granted and there's still much more ground to cover. I am here defining clueless. Oh, this has gone off. All right. Hold the time a second for me while I log back in here.
I love it. There's a genuine charm to that. It's like, uh-oh, this has gone off. Hold a second while I log back in. It's quaint. It's relatable. There's a charm to that. Unlike someone else we watch whose tech problems are far more hilarious, but nowhere near as pleasant. Sadly, this is about the only real compliments I'm going to give James during this. So this early part is where things are nice. Hope everyone's doing well, as James logs back in with his ultra-secure password.
Okay, they had to have me use this one because of the way the feeds are working. So when this logs back in. Okay, but I'll continue now, in any case. I'm here defining clueless in the context of my typical usage. Let me open up this document. Got to do it. I mean, this is just life, you know. I teach in.
Nobody wins in this situation. It just has to be this way. All you can do is laugh and relate. Like, yep, this is starting off awkward.
In this room, so I'm used to this. This just happens. Okay. So I'm defining clueless in the context of my typical usage. We cannot solve any of the 5 criteria needed to make a living cell. None of these can be solved. Mr. Farina has complained that I am a religious man. I'm not just religious, I'm deeply religious. Or as he puts it, I'm a, quote, super Jesus guy, unquote. While that's a label that I gladly embrace, and I believe that the Bible is God's word, I never appeal to that book of authority in my academic lectures or scientific discussions. Never.
But your rejection of the science that's in your wheelhouse, because you do, I think your organic chemistry is the broad sense of what you do, what you know. I think that would qualify as an apt descriptor. You would know how these molecules work, how the elements, the atoms making them up, the molecular chains, the way they behave, and know that they can do what abiogenesis would dictate they needed to do. Is basically self-assemble as an emergent property of the emergent product of their own innate properties. But because of your religious faith, you shove that away and have to constantly talk about the cluelessness and hold firm to that as your bastion of, well, we don't know exactly how this, that, and the other compound would have done what it did, so it's got to be God. But you don't say it academically because you do compartmentalize those things. But your breakdown, your barrier to abiogenesis is strictly because of your faith. That's where the problem comes in. And that you're promoting a kind of creationism passively by doing this.
Unless specifically asked about my religious convictions, like in a church or a religious podcast, I never couple those to my scientific criticisms of origin of life research. I will not appeal to the Bible, to God, to miracles, to Jesus, to God of the gaps tonight. Often, origin of life researchers have a time of the gaps appeal, where they will say something to the effect, over millions of years, such and such happened. Those bedtime stories that are devoid of any precise chemistry may as well start with once upon a time. So I hope that my opponent will likewise not appeal to ill-defined time of the gaps arguments, and that he'll stay strictly
time of the gaps. Oh, he's pulling a Hovind right there. Time is your pacifier for the evolutionist, Hovind.
On the scientific data, the data. As for me, I will stick to the data. The topic tonight is not about me, it's whether there is a valid hypothesis.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, is that Tor actually, for the stuff he actually knows and actually focuses on, is a good scientist. but he has to push so hard on this other stuff because of his religious biases that it just makes him look like a damn clown.
Is to make a living cell on a mindless early Earth. In discussing scientific data, it's not a matter of deception or lies. It is a matter of data interpretation. That happens all the time in science. It's hard to interpret the scientific literature data. And as I do with my graduate students, we learn from each other. They from me and I from them. I plan to address Mr. Farina as I would a graduate student seeking to learn from him tonight. The textbook definition for the characteristics of life is responsiveness to the environment, growth and change, ability to reproduce, having metabolism and breathe, maintaining homeostasis, and being made of cells and passing traits onto offspring. A valid hypothesis is one in which there is experimental evidence substantiating the proposed science. An invalid hypothesis is one in which there is no way to substantiate the proposed science. For example, my guest arrived to Houston from Los Angeles. A valid hypothesis would be that he flew to Houston on a commercial aircraft. That is a valid hypothesis because we can experimentally test the efficacy of commercial air travel. An invalid hypothesis would be that he drove here in a single...
You ever notice those examples always end up being something that's so blatantly obvious, in fact, that it doesn't need to be tested? It's just common knowledge that this, that, and the other is possible. It's a little subtle tactic they use.
Single molecule nanocar. Though that statement might be true, it is an invalid hypothesis since we have no experimental evidence for its validity. Nobody was present at life's origin, so we will never really know how life originated. But that's not what we're seeking to answer tonight. What we're seeking is an experimentally...
But James, you're trying to say that methodologies that are shown to be valid aren't. Dave has literally down here linked the papers he was citing. I'm sure most of which, if not all, at some point were shown in the debate proper. There was one comment I wanted to show off as well. Yeah, this is exactly how I imagine an online discussion would be performed offline. That just made me smile. But yeah, I mean, to use modern parlance, Dave brought receipts.
Valid, verifiable hypothesis as to how life might have originated on an early Earth. We must see the origin of life research data, not their unsubstantiated claims, even if those claims are written in their research papers. Mr. Farina, please show us their data. Show their data. My contention remains the same.
Mr. Farina, show me the data! Oh, this is getting good. He's already getting heated.
Same. One day I presume that we will have a valid hypothesis upon which life might have originated. But as of today, we do not. And with each passing year, the cellular target that we must disclose becomes harder to reach due to the increased realization of its minimal complexity.
This is true, as Raul brings up. James also packed the hall with his students, so I got such a resounding applause. That he did. Everyone was like, not just like students, but like church members of his as well, apparently. Because I think Aaron Ra was here. I think at the very end, he goes to ask a question and time runs out and it's a big load of crap.
A study in the Journal of Pragmatics in 2021 considered the trend of hyperbole in scientific publications. The authors Hyland and Jiang wrote, quote, "We trace the use of 400 hyping words which seek to promote, embellish, or exaggerate aspects of research papers. Our results show a massive increase in these items, and increases are most marked in the hard sciences," unquote. So while overblown statements are occurring in all fields, origin of life takes the cake. My opponent's favorite expert, Professor Lee Cronin, said in 2011 that he'd probably create life in his lab in 2 years. He did not. Another, whom he often cites, Professor Jack Sostek, then at Harvard, now at the University of Chicago, said in 2014 that he'd create life in his lab in 3 to 5 years. He did not. Professor Dimitar Seselov from Harvard University said in 2014 that life would be created in the lab in 5 years. It did not happen, not even close. Prebiotically...
Oh no. People overestimated their ability to get some things done. Therefore, all of science is wrong. Tor, I don't know. I had to come up with a Harvard for James Tor.
Relevant means that we are restricted to materials, procedures, and conditions that might have been available on an early Earth. These are the five criteria. These are the five criteria that have to be experimentally addressed in a prebiotically relevant manner in order to have a valid hypothesis for life's origin. We only have time for 5 tonight. Polypeptides, polynucleotides, polysaccharides, the origin of specified information, and the assembly of the above components into an integrated, functional, living system, namely a cell, not merely a random mixture of these. If my opponent is unable to supply all 5 criteria for life, then we're currently clueless on the origin of life. But since I don't think he'll be able to supply even one of the 5, it will show that we're not merely clueless, but utterly clueless. While some would like to portray me as one of the very few people that does not accept the hyped claims of origin of life researchers, I maintain that overconfident supporters of origin of life, like my opponent, are being abandoned by the origin of life research community itself. For example, Mr. Farina's own experts, whom he likes to cite, are now backing away from their own overblown claims. His often cited origin of life expert, Professor Jack Sostek, now says that aside from nature's construct of RNA, invoking of, quote, autocatalytic sets was never chemically realistic, unquote. Hence, the prebiotic relevance of autocatalytic sets crumbles. It's over, according to Professor Sostek. His often cited origin of life expert, Professor Donna Blackman, now acknowledges that there are no known prebiotically relevant autocatalytic reactions that greatly enhance chirality of a substrate. The increases are minor, so no need to waste our time tonight on autocatalysis. His own origin of life expert, Professor Stephen Benner, an enormous figure in this field, now says that any group of randomly synthesized RNA molecules would afford, quote, 10 million or 100 million more molecules that catalyze the destruction of RNA, unquote, than catalyze the copying of themselves, and, quote, this will never give you life, unquote. Hence, the relevance of random...
Oh yes, Dave has his full series on Tor, and I've watched every bit of it. Several times at this stage. It's good stuff. Part of it leading up to this, and part of it being the fallout. Like that disastrous dinner he had with other academics. I'm saying James Tor did, where everyone just kind of poo-pooed him away. He looks so dejected.
Random RNA to make copies of itself bites the dust. It's over, according to Professor Benner himself.
Doot. Copy and match the dust. Ha ha. And we're clueless about abiogenesis. Another one bites the dust. Oh no.
Origin of life expert Professor James Shapiro now writes, certain questions like the origins of the first living cells currently have no credible scientific answers, unquote. Evolution kingpin Professor Richard Dawkins now says, quote, we know little more than Darwin did about how it got started in the first place. We have no evidence bearing upon the momentous event.
Sorry, didn't mean to pause there, but I'll just interject that he's doing that thing I hate where he just brings up what random people say, and I'm like, I don't care what the individuals say. I care what the science itself actually says.
That was the start of evolution on this planet, unquote. My opponent's favorite origin of life expert, Professor Lee Cronin, now writes and says on multiple occasions that, quote, origin of life research is a scam, unquote, and, quote, there are lots of layers to the scam, unquote. A scam means a dishonest scheme or a fraud. It's beautiful. It's as if Professor Lee Cronin has been scientifically born again. Mr. Farina,
I won't bring up the Bible or anything, but uses, Christian theological language in that moment.
Respect your courage to be here tonight. It's too bad that origin of life researchers are not here themselves to
courage. He's channeling Big Hovind energy right there.
Defend their own data. Maybe they know the shallowness of their own research, while the less informed cannot assess the shallowness. I'm looking forward to seeing the data with chemical specificity. That's what I will be asking of you, so I'm telling you up front. Not the overblown titles, not their outlandish claims, not the once upon a time over 1 million years stories, but the data to propose a
Sound a lot like Hovind there.
valid hypothesis to the 5 criteria needed to build a living cell, thereby overcoming our cluelessness on origin of life. Thank you.
Mr. Farina, your opening statement, please.
Starting now? Hey everyone, thanks to Rice University for having us here tonight. We are here because of James Tour. James is a chemist and also an apologist who lies about origin of life research on the internet. It's quite the double life. In order to understand why he does this, we turn to his faith. James has admitted publicly that he is a creationist. He believes that God created life due to religious scripture, which to him takes priority over scientific evidence. From his website, faith and belief go beyond scientific evidence for this scientist. Anyone who thinks this is not relevant to the discussion is delusional, as James is openly admitting that there's no science that could ever be done that will convince him that life was not directly created by God. He is ideologically bound to denying abiogenesis. He sometimes...
And at that point, the whole thing's already over. But we got to go through the pageantry. And in this case, it was wonderful because James showed his ass.
Pretends to leave room for it, as he did just now, to seem open-minded, but he isn't. He's totally dogmatic. Therefore, his opinions on origin of life research are irrelevant, as he is approaching the field not as a scientist, but as a preacher. Of course, James pretends his rhetoric is scientific. He will bring up his H-index and list of publications. Less important is the fact that he has publicly admitted that his students do all the work and he slaps his name on the papers. More important is the fact that none of his research has anything to do with origin of life whatsoever and does not qualify him in this topic, which is not strictly synthetic organic chemistry as he claims, but also astronomy, geology, physics, and lots of other areas James is clueless about. When it comes to this topic, James is a YouTuber. His embarrassing commentary takes place exclusively on YouTube or in-person events for science-illiterate Christians who share his biases and delusions. James knows that science is done through the primary scientific literature, and he knows that his inability to publish anything on this topic makes him completely irrelevant. That's why he regularly lies and pretends that he is published in this area, and his papers are ignored because of conspiracy. These papers are actually blog posts in Inference Review, launched by Discovery Institute propagandist David Berlinski, which is not peer-reviewed and exists for the sole purpose of making pseudoscience appear more legitimate.
My crappy website is more peer-reviewed than this hunk of garbage. And what the fuck is that? Oh, good God. That caricature is monstrous. I kind of love it, but also hate it. I don't remember that. For good reason.
Jim's clueless ramblings do not even remotely resemble primary scientific literature, but he lists them among his actual science on his website anyway. Of course, when facing this topic, James somehow forgets what primary literature is supposed to look like. That's how he initially got into hot water, slandering Nobel laureate Jack Szostak. James was complaining about the prestigious journal Nature and what Szostak allegedly published in it, and how it doesn't meet the typical standards of the journal. He called Jack a liar multiple times, to the delight of his clueless, cackling audience. In actuality, it wasn't primary literature at all, but a web article meant for lay people, and there were no lies or inaccuracies, as James continues to claim to this day. His profoundly unprofessional and defamatory behavior has only gotten worse, as he now regularly attacks prominent researchers in this field or blatantly misquotes and misrepresents them. And that's why we're here, to highlight Jim's fraudulence. There is nothing to debate. The question as to whether we are clueless about the origin of life is idiotic. We aren't. Apologists like James train viewers to regurgitate the ridiculous lie that there's been no progress since the Miller-Urey experiment of the 1950s. In reality, we have multiple viable prebiotic synthetic pathways to all the relevant biomolecules and their polymers, and systems chemistry is showing us how sets of these molecules can have evolved over millions of years to produce the first protocell, which we will discuss later. James knows essentially nothing.
I just want to note that while I understand some concepts and some of the words being used, a lot of the detailed stuff I know fuck all about. So this discussion's actually relatively over my head. I don't know. I gotta listen. Gotta accept that Dave knows his shit. James knows his shit enough to distort things. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to take it on faith, you know?
Nothing about any of it, but pretends to for his viewers who take him on blind faith, something they are quite comfortable doing. So we will get to
I didn't plan that.
James fumbling the science in a moment, but first it's important to establish that James is a brazen liar and charlatan in ways that everyone can understand without knowing anything about science. For example, part of Jim's script is to complain about the primordial soup model. He describes this as lightning striking some water and molecules form a slithering creature that crawls out. This is the dumbest straw man in history. Yet he insists that all these textbooks
Oh no, Hovens, we came from Iraq is pretty stupid.
say precisely this, and it is taught to undergraduates as well as graduate students. In actuality, the textbooks look like this. They contain summaries of much of the research we will discuss momentarily: syntheses of biomolecules, ribozymes, autocatalysis, and other complex concepts. So he's just lying. He's trying to make science he doesn't like seem infantile and stupid. Another way he downplays the validity of the field is to pretend that almost no one is working in it. He claims it's a boutique field with no more than a dozen teams examining the problem. That's a lie. There are thousands of scientists working on this all over the world. He needs to lie about this because it's much more difficult to claim that thousands of scientists are all either corrupt or stupid, while only James knows the truth. A dozen is much easier to swallow, so he lies. He also pretends to be well-read in the subject. He isn't. He has admitted that he's read less than 5% of the literature on the topic, although in reality, over 3 million papers have been published since 2016, so he's read maybe 0.001% of the literature. More importantly, for the few papers he has read, the diligence he projects
Falk, we did that one a while back.
is a facade. As to anyone knowledgeable, he reveals a level of incompetence that is shocking for someone of his stature. Take, for example, this study by Stephen Benner, a researcher James regularly slanders. Here, Benner was showing nucleotide polymerization over basaltic glass to form RNA. James notes that Benner washes the glass thoroughly with hydrogen peroxide and ultra-pure water, and then throws his hands in the air about how this makes the study not prebiotically relevant, because he is washing away trace magnesium that would impede nucleotide polymerization on the early Earth. In his profound ignorance, James neglects to realize that basaltic rock is specifically rich in magnesium, information that anyone who had taken Geology 101 would know. Furthermore, he wonders where, oh where, could one find hydrogen peroxide and ultra-pure water on the early Earth, as though its use makes the study not prebiotically relevant. In reality, these are used to destroy biological material like bacteria that would contaminate the results. So, in fact, the washes are done specifically to make the experiment prebiotically relevant. This example is...
Which I would expect anyone studying the experiment to understand. I totally knew that. You know, watching this, I was like, oh yeah, wash it with peroxide. Kill everything that's in there so you can start fresh. You would think a doctor in chemistry would understand that too.
Crucial because James will focus much of his empty criticism on claiming that research is not sufficiently prebiotic. But remember this example where James was so clueless that he does not even understand what the researchers are doing and why. This is his primary tactic. He skims the supplemental section of a paper, invents a technical flaw out of thin air, and pretends it negates the results of the paper, and by extension, origin of life research in general. But it gets much worse. James regularly botches concepts not just in geology, but also in his own field. For an example, we return to Benner's research where he synthesized ribose in prebiotically relevant fashion. James doesn't like it one bit, and when confronted with a 13C NMR spectrum demonstrating the presence of ribose, he not only pretends the data is invalid, but he goes to town with meme after meme, cartoon after cartoon, childishly mocking Benner for his garbage data. Here's his laughing Spanish guy meme where the whole crowd laughs in unison at the idiot Benner who thinks he got ribose when it's actually a mess of a billion compounds. But the joke is on James as his pathetic commentary reveals that he can't even read a 13C NMR spectrum, something he should have learned as an undergrad. James compares the spectrum to that of pure ribose when the sample is ribose borate, a different compound, with broad peaks due to rapidly interconverting forms. The billions of compounds are actually just noise, as the vertical axis is expanded to highlight the wider peaks. This abject failure has been confirmed by every chemist I've corresponded with, from Benner himself to J. William Suggs, Professor Emeritus of Chemistry at Brown University, and many others. The idea that James can't do something that an undergrad could do is astounding, and whether his brain ceases to function when examining this research, or he is deliberately lying to a gullible audience with no clue what he's talking about, his credibility is reduced to zero with this example alone. So that's a brief summary of James Tour. He's a toxic individual and pathological liar who actively promotes science denial and slanders diligent researchers. Or in my case, he scours the internet for clips of me in music videos to commit character assassinations. Or unleashes a barrage of insults about how Dave doesn't know chemistry, even though most of his students use my organic chemistry tutorials to get through his unbearable course.
Which is pretty damned hilarious. Hey, that is definitional irony. Maybe not, but, you know, it fits the bill. It's ironic enough, damn it.
He baselessly shouts hype when his own research is full of hype. He whines about being accused of believing in the God of the gaps when he objectively does. He publicly calls for the halting of an entire field of science he doesn't understand just to shelter his fragile, archaic faith. But today, finally, with no desk to hide behind, every tactic will be elucidated in real time, and he will be made accountable for his lies for everyone to see. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I will.
We now turn to Dr. Tour, who will ask a question.
Here we go. The chalkboard. It's time.
One of the things that we have to make in order to have life are polypeptides, where we take amino acids and these amino acids have to couple. And when they couple, it will form a dipeptide.
Oh, Lord, this man's about to draw the whole molecule. Get your pillows out, people. It's going to take a while. I forgot how long writing on a chalkboard took. I still love the sound, but I'm weird like that.
This dipeptide is one of thousands and thousands and thousands that would have to form. If you were going to make a polypeptide, you'd need at least 100 of these for a very small polypeptide. Mr. Farina, show me the prebiotic chemistry that would do this coupling. Be my guest.
Okay.
I mean, I'm no chemist, but if you got compound A and you got compound B and they get together and, you know, they're going to do what they do. Chemistry boils down to basic physics. It's complicated as hell, but the fundamentals are extremely simple. It's kind of like electronics. Really complicated stuff going on, but the fundamentals are still just voltage differentials, and electron flow to abstract it. Electricity is actually weird, but let's not get into the weeds on that. I mean, will these individual elements, if presented next to each other, combine? Can these constituent parts combine? And if there's some carbon in there, is it possible that since that's what those bonds in the middle are representing, will those carbon bonds and the like, do their thing? You got emergent complexity here. You got simple processes tacked onto one another. It's very straightforward. I can't derive do the math on that. I can't derive it. I don't know if Dave could or not, given time to work on it, but it's irrelevant to the principle that chemistry works. It's consistent. The laws of physics are consistent. Ergo, there's nothing stopping this from occurring naturally.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need the board.
I don't need the board. I have technology.
This was my second prompt, so I guess we'll circle back to this. But yeah, you keep going. Show me the references in your content. But so you're missing a mountain of research, literally a mountain of research that demonstrates this. So here's one: condensation of amino acids to form peptides in aqueous solution. So we've got sulfur-4 oxidative mono, carbonyl sulfide mediated prebiotic formation of peptides. There's another one.
That does not do it, and the two you showed do not.
Who? He's like Hovind. He's the arbiter of reality. That does not do it. Tor. Amino acids coupling. Cover your eyes. Yeah, this video is gonna have to be age restricted for the children. Big Bad Mama. Hey, since we're trying to get Dave to take the chalk and providing evidence against abiogenesis, yes, he does. Birds on the bees, Didn't he just show it? Yeah. He kind of did. Sex Dave to show the chemistry that he just wrote on the board. That is pretty fucking hilarious. Can you show your work? I'm just going to refer to the chart you drew.
Do it. This is called asparagine. DK. They do not do it with these.
Okay, so what is the Lehman?
James Tor is an expert on things that do and don't do it. Film at 11.
A fraud? Gadiri's a fraud? Are you calling them a fraud? They published a paper, carbonyl sulfide mediated prebiotic formation of peptides. So if you're saying they didn't do that, you're
show me the example in there. I studied this. I looked over every paper you put up.
You have never studied anything in this area. Are you kidding me? All you do is go, show me the papers, and then I show you papers. Here, let's see if I can find that one exactly.
Yeah, show me the one exactly that does this in a prebiotic fashion. Show me. It's not there. Okay. I'm asking you to come up and show me the chemistry.
James, I don't need to write on the board. I brought actual papers. This is actual research.
Okay, show me the paper. Show me in that paper this example. Okay, this is called.
This is the one you wanted.
Aspartic acid. This is called lysine.
James, look. This is the Gadiri paper. Here's the scheme. You want to go through that?
But
aqueous, room temperature.
James, are you desperately trying to say that's just lines on paper? I feel like that's what you're trying to do.
You get oligopeptides, okay, and it jumps to 80% yield with prebiotic oxidizing agents.
But
like
not with this, because what happens is this would participate. This would participate.
You want to do the side chain thing? Okay, well we've got research for that too.
Of course, I'm speaking to the side chain. This is not glycine.
Oh, of course he's speaking to the side chain. It's not glycine. Silly us. Oh, of course it's not glycine.
That's not prebiotically relevant. That has nothing to do with prebiotic.
Okay, how about this one?
That sulfur compound was made separately in dichloromethane using HOBT, which is a coupling agent designed by human beings for solid phase synthesis. That's how they made the
Are you saying sulfur is not available prebiotically? It doesn't matter what solvent they use.
No, HOBT.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how they produce the material. They needed the compound. They needed a pure example of it to demonstrate that these processes work. This compound can occur naturally. It probably wasn't available in the it's not going to be available in the concentrations they would need for the experimentation naturally currently. So you kind of want to, get a hold of it. Is every scientist out there cheating when they get water from the tap? Maybe there's still it and stuff. I'm sure, just going to use regular tap water. But I mean, got to bring water in somewhere. What about all the other chemicals? Are they supposed to go out and go, SpongeBob jellyfishing, just catching random chemicals? Like it's fucking Pokemon? Hey, I found some hydrogen. Yeah! I can finally produce those water molecules I've been needing for my abiogenesis experiment. The fuck are you on, James?
The compound, that SH compound that you just showed, was made in a separate reaction. That was in a separate reaction, and he describes that.
Okay.
I can show you in the paper.
Thank you. If you don't like that one, how about this Pounder one? Pounder jacks regioselective peptide formation. Acylated aminonitrile.
Right.
Wait, hold on. I got the scheme here.
It's not in there. You're going to look and look. It's not in there. I studied every one of your papers. Pounder doesn't even use amino acids.
Why would Dave be going for it if it wasn't in there?
He uses an
aminonitrile.
aminonitrile.
That's a totally
that is
different
not
paper.
an amino acid.
James, that's not the same paper. You're
No,
talking about a different paper.
There is no coupling.
Look, he got coupling with lysine, regioselective lysine ligation, the most selective peptide ligation that tolerates all proteinogenic side chains.
But
he did this
does not
with
do
all side
an
chains.
amino acid coupling. He's got
What are you talking about? Prebiotic catalytic peptide ligation.
There's no amino acids there.
Yes, it's amino acids.
Okay,
What are you
go to
talking
the
about?
equation of
Well,
that.
I don't,
Go to the equation of
I don't
that.
have that one, but you're just lying. You're also
I'm not
shifting the
lying. I'll show
goalposts,
you the
though.
paper.
Because, by the way, you pretend that there are no papers that show any peptide formation in water. I just showed you a ton. You're shifting the goalposts by complaining
How
about
am
the
I
side
shifting
chains.
the goalpost?
Zero fucks given by Dave. It's so great. You're lying and you're shifting the goalposts. I just showed you the paper, and you want to move on to such and such. Show me on your chalkboard.
These are the ones you've got to do. If you can't do it with these
They're the ones you gotta do.
active side chains. You cannot.
But he did.
Pounder didn't do it with the active side chains. He used an aminonitrile.
Okay,
There are no amino
no,
acids.
James, you're talking about a completely different paper. Peptide ligation by chemoselective aminonitrile coupling in water.
That's an aminonitrile. It's
That is a
aminonitrile.
different paper.
It's not amino acid coupling.
I know that's a different paper. He takes this is just a different. He's not going through peptide bond formation. It's a different, right? So you have peptides. You have amino acids condensing. That's peptide formation. He's figuring out a different synthetic pathway that doesn't do coupling, but it doesn't matter. There's a million of these, right? Condensation by wet-dry cycling. Chemoselective
Nobody has
aminonitrile
done
coupling.
this. I'm asking you for a specific reaction because half of the amino acids have active side chains. And these guys play this game of not including these ones that have carboxylic acids, not including the ones that have amines.
This is an
You
acylated,
can't do this coupling.
acylated aminonitrile plus unprotected amino acid hydrolyzes the pH 7
Right.
form of dipeptide.
Which amino acid? Hydroxylated ones. Never carboxylated, never deaminated.
All protein.
You know, I'm so out of the loop on this that it all sounds like absolute gibberish. It's kind of great being this far out of my field, because what he just said to my lay ass and this stuff sounds silly. Like, I understand those words definitely have meaning. I can probably infer some aspects of meaning, but it just sounds like random shit being made up. And it's kind of amazing coming at this and being so naive when it comes to the details on these things. And yet still understanding it enough to be like, no, I think Dave's got points here.
Aminogenic side chains. All
From
protein-
aminonitriles.
James, I'm telling you, he did this with lysine. Okay, so the side chain thing is not a problem. So forget the fact that you can't handle that. Right, that peptide formation in water happens and has been demonstrated by about a dozen of these papers that I've shown you.
Only
Now
with
you're
an
talking about the side
activator,
chains.
as you said in your second series.
Yeah, chemical
your first
activator.
Series,
Prebiotically plausible chemical
Your first
activator.
series, you never said this. With an activator, you're not coupling
what?
for the amino acids.
Okay,
Yes, I
we've
am.
reached
You're
the
not
end.
coupling
We've
carbonyl
reached the end of the
sulfide.
5 minutes. It now, yeah.
This just in, James Torr says that chemical reactions can't have the components necessary to conduct the reaction, because otherwise, if you do, it means we had to have the chemicals to make the reaction happen, and it couldn't have happened naturally, and so we're clueless. Make it make sense.
So I just have one quick comment going back to the NMR, and that is when organic chemists run NMRs, they typically don't run them with boric acid present. If you're going to run a C13 NMR of ribose, you want the ribose to be as pure as it can possibly be.
But he was doing chemistry on borate minerals. That's why it was ribose borate.
So now it's your turn to ask.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll get
Dr.
back to the
Turner.
peptides in a second because that was my second prompt. But
For what it's worth, and I intentionally went past this in the opening, that dude's acting as the moderator, as a science fact checker on this, and he kind of fucks up through and through. It's pretty hilarious.
let me... 1 minute. Okay. We'll continue looking at research in a moment, but first I can't resist confronting James about some of these lies he's been telling, so let's list a few and get some answers. So first, the textbook thing. Primordial soup model is lightning and then a slithering creature crawls out, and that's what all these college-level textbooks say. Again, no, they don't. He made that up, like a liar. Next, this boutique field of a dozen researchers thing. Of the millions of papers that comprise this field, I went through a handful of the ones I've read and made this list. There are thousands more. Pretty dumb lie, huh? And let's add one more. When I had some scientists on my content to help expose James as a fraud, one of them was a friend of mine, organic chemist Bruce Lipschitz, who explained how James was objectively wrong about peptides being able to form in water, as I just showed you, which I'll prove with about a dozen papers, or I did, and will continue to do so. This hurt James so badly that he spun a ridiculous lie about how I took an unrelated clip of Bruce and stuck it in my content behind his back. This was so idiotic that I had to get Bruce to make another statement specifying that I requested the clip from him and that I had permission to use it, though James did not have permission to share their email exchange. In his emails with James, Bruce explicitly states that he was responding to the claims James had made. There it is in red. But his viewers can't read, so they just ate up the fabricated story.
Your viewers are illiterate, James. Haha.
Now, again, remember, I'm demonstrating conclusively that James is a pathological liar. This is important because James also lies about
And yes, I'm snacking during this because I'm hungry, damn it.
science that goes over most people's heads. So by proving to you what a liar...
Donate today so Yamato can afford, some actual lunch meat. Me and Candy right now. I want a sandwich. I got snacks here, so I'm just having to deal with that for now. I don't know, I'm just acting crazy. I'm breaking up the monotony. Just a tad. Let's continue.
He is, you are now primed to realize how he is lying about all the complex details of origin of life research as well. This way you won't just nod your head and assume James must be right. So let's begin. Let's begin with the textbook thing. Why would you tell this dumb lie, James? Why would you tell this lie?
This lie. You think you've been taught things that are... We'll think about molecules in a puddle. Okay, so there is a primordial soup model, and there is no understanding of what's happening in this primordial soup, and you talk to people, and this is exactly what they see. They talk about the primordial soup model in all of these textbooks. That's your question.
This is the primordial soup model. It just means some molecules in water. That's what it means.
Look, you were absolutely clueless.
Oh, that's how that chalkboard setup works. It's 2 sections. Man, I want one of those.
On
James.
Here it is. There it is. Clueless. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, at 37 minutes and 15 seconds in, we have James Tor writing Clueless on the chalkboard. Because that somehow proves a point. Film at 11.
You never gave me the coupling for that reaction. I want you to notice, I'm going to narrate. This is my time
James.
now. I want you to notice,
No.
he didn't answer the question. I invited him to come up to show me the chemistry, how this is done.
No, I
He
did.
did not. He did not. And now you want me to say, so now this is the
No,
question. The
I
question
showed
is,
counter
I
research
just
that
told
does
you
it.
the
He's just
primordial
confusing it.
soup model
James.
is nonsense, and this is in these textbooks,
You
and
think
this is
that
taught over and
molecules
over
turning
again.
into slithering creatures is in textbooks? Show me the textbook. Show me the textbook that says molecules form into slithering creatures.
Because this is
Show it.
exactly the model that the molecules come together. These form higher organisms that come out of the water.
Molecules form higher organisms that come out of the
Yes,
water.
yes.
Show me the textbook that shows
I don't
that.
have the textbook. I showed you.
Because
There they
I
are.
showed
There they
you-
are. The smelly soup model. There, you have the list right there.
There they are, the smelly soup model. You're taking shit seriously. People take this man seriously. Oh, James. If you weren't such a belligerent prick, we'd love you.
I showed
That's
you-
from my video. You have the list.
This is what the textbooks show. Ribozymes,
But
autocatalysis, all
does
the
that
things
text,
that you
no,
pretend aren't real.
go back to my slide. Go back to my slide. There.
Yeah.
Go back.
No, this
No,
is
no,
your
no,
quote.
no. Go one forward. You show the text. All right. Now don't change it. Now, which textbook were you referring? Because I said right there, it says miniature C, prebiotic soup. Those are quotes from each one of
And
those
do they
books.
show
It's in there.
molecules forming a slithering creature? No, they don't, because that's a lie. And you're not going to run out the clock. How about the dozen people thing? Does that look like a dozen people to you?
What I meant by that, the number of people that are doing the complex organic Sutherland Pounder type synthesis. This is exactly what Benner told you.
No.
Benner told you
People all
that it's
over
a
the world.
very
Benner
small.
told me. I have
No,
hundreds
Benner
of
told
papers.
you on the video that there's a small number of people that are still doing the Sutherland type of complex synthesis. Most of the area is
Origin of
not
life
doing that
immunity
anymore.
Complex synthesis. Oh, it just sounded funny. I'm not insulting him. It amused me.
The boutique community, it's a small number of people. It's a dozen people.
It was in
That's what you
reference
said.
to
No.
the number of people that are doing the complex Sutherland type
The
synthesis.
origin of life community. The origin of life community. You're talking about the field in general. How about the
I know you're not a professor, a PhD in English, James, but I would expect you to understand the syntax of the statement made better.
Bruce thing? This was pretty dumb, right? He just took one of the guy's videos and stuck it in.
Because when I
Why'd you do that?
contacted Bruce, Bruce said to me, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was unaware of
Dave
this.
asked me
He
to
said it
comment
in the
on
email.
some of your
You're not showing the
writings,
whole email.
and
I have
specifically about what we are doing. And does this show?
no. Why don't you show the page? Why don't you show the page where he said I had no
God, Dave is roasting him. I mean, James opened this hot, but damn.
idea that
prove
this
you
is
wrong.
there? Look, I
Dave's cool as a cucumber.
published the whole email.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
and
only
here
showing
he
the one.
says that I asked for the
No, but
video,
in-
and he's talking about you. And then here you go.
No,
and
you don't want to show the one where
just
he
took
said
one of the guy's
where he said
videos
I
and
had
stuck
no
it in.
idea.
I think he should
You're
apologize.
not
for this.
you're not going to address anything on life.
This was pretty.
You can-
This was a pretty dumb
Let's
lie.
try
This
to
was
have
a really
a dialogue
malicious lie.
instead of people shouting at each other. So
Oh, fuck you, moderator. Moderators are bitches when they get to that point. If the conversation's already evolved that far, then fuck it. Let the dumpster fire burn.
maybe take turns.
I think an apology is in order for this lie, James. Pretty dumb lie. Pretty dumb lie to tell. I think we can all agree that we are establishing the pathological nature of his lying. Well, then you're blind. He just took one of the
Dave, no fucks given, Farina.
guy's videos
Yeah,
and
let's-
stuck it in.
Let's go back to the. We have 1 minute and 11 seconds left. 8 seconds.
Well, it doesn't sound like I'm going
1
to get an
minute and
apology
11
from
seconds.
James.
Okay. As far as this, he says that I called Jack Sostek a liar.
Yeah.
I did. And Jack Sostek sent me an email. He said, you were pretty hard on me in that talk. And I said, Jack, I'd like to call you to apologize because I was wrong to do that. I said, give me your number. He gave me his number. I called him. We spoke about this. He said to me, Jim, if you would join us in this origin of life research, we would get this thing solved. We had a very
Why'd
good
you say
conversation.
this was a
you
Nature
totally made that up. Because if you had spoken to Jack Sostek, nobody made me apologize to him. I offered him my apology,
Let me
and
show
he
you the
accepted it.
primary literature, the journal Nature.
And I
Does this look like the
apologized
journal
to
Nature?
him.
Let's note how off the rails this has gotten and the fact that James is focusing on this. He feels attacked. He knows he done fucked up. And so he's trying hard as hell to address this so he can move back to the subject when he should just focus on the biology stuff and be like, this is irrelevant to it. But he knows it makes him look bad. At least he has the honesty to try to address it, even if he is lying or grossly mistaken. I'll give James Tour that maybe he's that incompetent that he's truly mistaken on what the hell went on. But that it's probably me being way too generous to him.
And but you continue to call his work utterly, what did you call it? Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
About these
it is
structures,
utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, but
when
it's
he
not,
says he's going to
because-
have life in his lab in 3 to 5 years in 2014, and now he says, I can't even make the
Yeah,
RNA.
who cares? Who cares? You lied about this. Look, the structures are...
Oh, no.
Who cares? Who cares? You lied about this. Fucking balls on Dave. Balls of steel.
No, that slide, you can speak to Jack Sostek. He said to me, Jim, that slide was not well done. That was a copy from another article in Scientific
And yet the
American.
structures are
No,
correct.
Jack agrees with me. That was poorly done. There's no stereochemistry on
So
that sugar. When
it's
there's
an
no
article for laymen.
stereochemistry,
Okay, I'm going
it's
to
not
call.
right.
I'm going to call it
If
quits.
Oh, the moderator gets in there again. Oh, shut your ass up, Mod. You suck. Unmoderated debates for the win.
No
This part
stereochemistry,
of the
not
session,
rivals.
let's move on. It's Dr. Tour's
2 minutes to
Right.
ask a question. Okay,
Right,
my
to ask
second
the question.
question is,
let's also try to see if we can stick more to the science instead of diagrams.
oh, I would love
show.
to stick
Well,
to
that
the
was
science.
my only prompt for the
All
lies.
right.
It's important to establish
Polynucleotides.
that James is a liar.
Polynucleotides.
Love it.
You have to be able to make RNA.
Hey, when did the board get cleared? Is there like 4 or 5 layers to that board setup? Did I miss something? Is this some like 5-dimensional deep chalkboard assembly? Because then I want one even more. Like, I'm not even joking. I want one of those. Hey, it looks like a dude with giant mutated hands. Watch out, the chemical monster's gonna get you. You know, Ski Free back in the Windows 3.1 and Windows 95 days. It's the it's Chernobyl / Love Canal's bastard cousin of the abominable snowman, chasing you down. It's gonna hit you with the dioxins and the chromium wastes. Gonna mutate your genes, and that's about the end of that.
You have to be able to take this molecule and hook it together many, many times to have
Okay, give me some chemicals that it likes to bond to, and I'll hook them together. It's just chemistry, bruh. Why do I get this and he doesn't? Or is this a case of Dunning-Kruger? And I'm not even being funny. My understanding is chemicals do what chemicals do. If presented by one another, they're going to do the thing. Every bit of stuff from like Action Lab and Nile Red that I've seen demonstrates this. If you take these two chemicals and mix them together, you will get this result. So I think my understanding is pretty clear. Thus, I refer back to the idea that you want me to make long chains of that, give me the stuff it bonds with, and I'll let it bond.
a dimer of RNA, abbreviating the base, this time as B, abbreviating the triphosphate as P3.
Okay, I'm just double checking. When we say whiteboard, we're just referring to a dry erase setup, yeah? Because I'm down with that.
What you have to be able to do is show me chemistry. I'm asking you specifically for chemistry, not a bunch of nonsense here. Show me the chemistry
Not a bunch
to get
of peer-reviewed
this
research.
reaction to go such that you get coupling between the 3' hydroxyl to this 5' site. So you need 3',
He'll let it bond. Chemical bond.
5' coupling to the exclusion of 2', 5' coupling to the exclusion of branching. Every article that you cited in your videos, every article.
I love how I know it's valid science, yet it still sounds like complete bullshit. Oh, this article to 5' to 2' bonding. What the fuck kind of Star Trek technobabble are you going on about?
Article that you could ever cite that shows this coupling.
Sounds like that sci-fi I'm working on and, you know, etheric recombination.
Shows this scrambling. You get significant amounts of 2,5, significant amount of branching. And that's why this chemistry doesn't work, and that's why your own expert, Jack Sostek even says that Benner's work, where he talked about this thing, was just hyped up. There was nothing there because he says he went with the hype. He did not go with the right couple. Show me the chemistry. Show me this chemistry.
So first of all, this is completely...
Your time's over, James. Your time's over. At least they held him to it.
Idiotic. Nucleotide polymerization has been demonstrated on Montmorillonite clay for decades.
Yes, with 30 to 70% 2.5. I asked you for 3.5, which is what you need to have life.
You want to do me a favor here? I want you to read the title of that paper there. It's by your buddy, Jack Shostak. He's done some research on this.
Yeah, I know. And Jack Sostek even says he cannot get it. Functional art, except for tolerance for non-inheritable 2.5. How much tolerance? How much? Montmorillonite clay is 30 to 70%.
James, what's the first word in that paper? Functional. So we're talking about RNAs that still have catalytic behavior, despite having a mixture of 2,5 and 3'.
I think there was a point in elementary school where we had some chalk that I didn't do well with. Luckily, I was only exposed to it once, and it was like emergency chalk. So we quickly got that out of there.
His amount of 2.5 to 3.5 is not 30 to 70%. If you have a 0.1%, you're okay because you'll have runs, but not 30 to 70%. Show me.
I got to read this in the right voice. Optimus Prime, Rodimus Prime, Sentinel Prime, Amazon Prime, Nova Prime.
Show me the amount. Your guy Deemer never tells us how much is there.
James, look, the
and
research
Benner
shows
never told us how much is there.
Functional RNAs. So it doesn't matter how much 2', doesn't matter.
He literally brought printouts. He brought the papers. He doesn't just have them in his slideshow. He's got the actual fucking papers. That's a power play move right there. Here you go, James. Here's the actual paper if you wish to read it.
Oh, it certainly does. And what about branching?
My God.
It's not there. It's not there. Nobody has ever done this prebiotically. You're going to be looking through your papers a long time. It's never been done. Without an enzyme, it has never been done.
You are completely clueless.
It's over. It's over. You can't make RNA. There's no life.
It's over. It's over, Harvard.
You can't make RNA. There is no life. You haven't made peptides.
But RNA isn't special. It's made up of base elements and base molecular structures that will do the things they do chemically. So it's not over. I mean, this is so simple and so basic. That's why I keep going to it. It's just, that's my immediate thought. But it's chemistry. Nothing in here isn't reducible. Ergo, emergent complexity. Ergo, natural processes can accommodate all of this, even if we don't know the exact details. That's irrelevant.
Haven't made RNA. It's over.
James, nucleotide polymerization has been demonstrated for decades on clay. You are literally pulling this out of your ass. This has been done for decades.
Oh no, he said ass. Boo. A bunch of grown adults can't handle him saying ass.
You got... None of you people know this research. None of you people know this research. You're just blindly trusting him.
All right, let's try to have
Wow, what kind of crap shade are they throwing?
some civility, please.
The adsorption and polymerization of nucleotides on clay minerals has been demonstrated for decades. James is...
Yes, we should all watch more Professor Dave videos. This is totally not a sponsored live stream. And I'm not saying your day would be better if you watch Professor Dave videos, but statistically speaking, people who watch Professor Dave videos have better days in the long run. It's a fact. I've got the receipts. I just don't have them here with me. So yes, go watch more Professor Dave videos after this. Oh, hey Dave, where's my check?
lying, and people who are cheering for him have no clue what he's talking about. You're just blindly believing him. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's look at it on clay. Here is the reference on clay.
Yeah, to say James Tour is immature James Tor is immature is definitely an understatement.
Reference on clay. Here, on Marilynite, what did he get? He got 67% 3.5, which means you have 33% 2.5 of the wrong linkage. 1 out of every 3 is wrong. Here he gets 75 to 80% 2.5. So now you have the vast majority 2.5. That's what you get on clay. It's right there, Marilynite clay.
And it doesn't matter. That's what Shostak showed in
1
this
out
paper.
of 3.
Mapleson, that's technically an incorrect phrasing. I think I know what you mean. Non-biotic is not having originated from life in some way or another, but by definition, all amino acids are organic because of what is defined as organic, which memory serves involves the whole carbon bond affair.
Doesn't matter?
No.
It matters tremendously.
The 3 prime to 2 prime.
No. If you have a fraction of it, you're okay. 1 out of 3, Jack Shostak would never. How much does he have there? How much does he have? Tell me. You read the paper.
It says functional RNAs.
I haven't seen that paper. You're bringing in other papers, which we agreed you would not do.
James, you're presenting yourself as an expert in this field.
I don't know. I've not read that paper. You read it. Tell me, how much 2.5 does he have?
I don't remember every single detail of the paper.
You don't remember because you don't.
You don't remember everything about the paper, ergo I'm right. What?
Want to remember? You read the paper. You brought that in. We were not supposed to.
Oh, and note the you don't want to remember right there.
Introduced any papers that had not been in our videos that you agreed to.
James, here's what would happen though. If you genuinely cared about this question, what you would do is you would go to Google Scholar and you'd put in some keywords and you'd find this Shostak paper.
You would not
You're
find that.
hiding from
That has a trace. You on clay you get 37%. This says 80%. You can't have 1 out of every 3 be a wrong linkage. You would never code for a peptide with that. It's over.
How do you know? It says functional RNAs.
If you have a 1 out of 3 potential, then yeah, theoretically that chain can still go on forever. It's very unlikely, but it could. And that's granting your statement here, which I neither know nor care necessarily about the exactness of. But if there's a chance of success, then it is possible for success to continually happen up to a required rate.
You have no idea what RNAs do.
Because it doesn't work.
Do you understand that
the
RNAs have
alignment is
catalytic
not right.
function? Do you understand that RNAs have
even if
catalytic
you have
function?
the wrong enantiomer, it doesn't work. Even Donna Blackman has said that in the papers
You
that
have
you
no
cited.
clue what Donna Blackman says. You quote mine her. You have no idea what her research is about. You just pretend to.
Okay, so there we go. I asked him to come up here and show me the
paper on
chemistry,
linkage
just like I would do with a graduate student. I said, show me the chemistry. He did not.
I mean, you can say that.
Oh no, we got 2 clueless up there now. Cluelesses, cluelessy, cluelessy. 2 cluelays. Dave Coulier.
Don, you can't do this, you can't make a cell. You can't do that, you can't make a cell. It's over, buddy. It's over.
Wow. Lies and cheers. Amazing. Lies and cheers. Incredible.
So just from a chemical point of view, though, we would need to know what functional RNA meant.
Having catalytic properties.
Because RNA has many functions.
It still has recognition and catalytic function. It lowers the melting point of the duplexes by destabilization, so separation can occur under reasonable conditions.
And what was the percentage? You got everything else written down. What was
James,
the I don't know.
What was the percentage? You get everything else written down? Man, he's being petty. Oh, man. This is hilarious.
I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge
very
of
careful.
hundreds
He
of
would
papers.
tell us. It's in that paper because that's what Benner.
You're basically calling
Shostak got upset with Benner because he didn't do it. But Shostak would put that in the paper.
No, that's another great one. The Benner thing. Yeah, we're going to get to the Benner one.
Okay, it's time to end that part, but I want to just pause. To have functional RNA, it has to do at least 3 things. It has to serve as messenger RNA, ribosomal RNA, and
messenger RNA. Messenger RNA. You're talking about features of modern cells.
No, I haven't looked at that video on a stream. I had rewatched it personally relatively recently. It's in the list of things I definitely want to cover at some point.
Talking about prebiotic nucleic
but ultimately
acids.
has to do that. So what function is my question? Did he show that it performed? Because it has to at least perform
it-
one of the three. Ultimately, it's going to have to perform all three.
Yeah, I mean, it's replication. I'm not sure exactly in the context of the paper, but he's saying that 2' linkages don't matter. As though you people have any fucking...
Boo! Oh, and he dropped the F-bomb. I'm going to go back just a hair so we can appreciate the entire thing.
That 2' linkages don't matter. As though you people have any fucking clue what any of us are talking about.
Oh, you said the F word.
I know about RNA. No, you don't. You have no clue what either of us are saying. Deal with it. Answer the question. Anyone who thinks nucleotide polymerization to form RNA has not been demonstrated is clueless. It's been demonstrated by hundreds of researchers and is just
Show us!
canon.
Right here!
I
Here.
just showed you.
Do it! You got hundreds of examples. Show us. You won't come up.
What do you want me to draw on the
You won't do
board,
it.
James? What do you want
You
me to
won't do it.
draw on the board?
Clueless.
Okay, well, let's go to the next round.
Yeah, that's why I brought a bunch of research James pretends isn't real, and you're all pretending to understand right now.
I love those guys like, okay, we're gone.
Google? What?
Okay.
All right, let's go to the next round. Dave, you're next in terms of asking a question to.
All right. So we've been talking
Dr.
about
Jordan.
peptides.
All seriousness, yeah, DM, very true. You shouldn't be antagonizing the audience. It's the sand toy video, yep. You and Outcast had the same thought change.
Nucleic acid, so I'll give a prompt on this too. So let's talk about biomolecules. Amino acids are ubiquitous and even form in space, and Strecker-like synthetic pathways have been known for decades. Amino acids polymerize to yield peptides. Again, James has humiliated himself even tonight.
I mean, that's the thing, is that we already start off with amino acids, and we know what they do, so...
Claiming peptides can't form in water, no matter how many references I show him. Here are some of the papers that we've been talking about. He keeps trying to talk about side chains because he hasn't admitted yet that this does happen. Peptide formation with prebiotic chemical activators. There are countless studies generating this. So the objections, like the reactions from side chains, I'm very sorry, but they have been addressed, showing regioselective coupling even for lysine. When he objects to this, he's just lying about what the paper is about. Then don't forget condensation by wet-dry cycling, as well as totally alternate synthetic pathways that don't involve condensation. Next, plenty of studies show prebiotic syntheses of nucleotides, and their adsorption and polymerization on clay has been studied for decades. These catalytic surfaces also protect RNA from degradation. This type of chemistry has been taken out of the lab and shown to work in prebiotic analog conditions, primarily hot springs, where biopolymers form efficiently and become encapsulated in vesicles. James ignores all of this research and just complains about aspects of experimental setup, like running reactions under argon, which is done specifically to avoid contact with the oxygen that wasn't present on the early Earth. Or he pretends prebiotically plausible reagents like DAP are not prebiotically plausible by only showing research from the 1950s instead of current research. He will wonder how nature knew to phosphorylate the 5' hydroxyl to get nucleotides, oblivious to research demonstrating that protection by borate minerals yields precisely that. In general, he ignores decades of research and just spews his script about how we don't know how to get these molecules. But we do, so let's continue talking about this.
Okay, so there were so many there. You know, this is called rapid fire, so that you can't answer
I don't have answers, so I'm going to accuse them of gish galloping. I'm just going to say it's rapid fire, same differential, often.
anymore.
I'm just showing you
All
all
right,
the research.
so you cited this paper where they used sulfur 4.
Okay.
This is not just water, it has activation. Once you activate, it is not amino acids polymerizing in water. As soon as you activate, it goes from being zwitterionic, to being not zwitterionic. It functionalizes on the carboxylic acid. That proton gets freed up. That proton gets freed up on the amine, and then it can do the attack.
You're describing the
no,
mechanism.
wait.
Proton gets freed up. Okay, sounds like radiation to me. Obviously, I missed something there.
Wait, I'm not done. I'm not done. This is my section. Let me get done.
No, this is us.
Let me get going. God, James, you're a whiny little baby.
Alanine, phenylalanine, and serine. That is what he used. Alanine, phenylalanine. He had serine. He had the OH. He never used the ones that have the carboxylic acid, the aspartic acid that I told you. He never used the lysine.
Yeah.
This is the paper. That's why you couldn't get up, because this didn't solve it. I read the paper. It didn't solve it. Look at the list.
You claim
look
that
at the list
peptide
of,
formation
look at
in
the
water
list
was
of the
impossible.
ones that he used.
You claim that
it's
peptide...
not there.
James, you claimed that peptide formation in water was not possible countless
No,
times
it was.
in your
No,
content.
you said.
You never
said that
oh,
these,
it
no,
happens,
you
but
said
not
it
with
in
lysine.
your second series. You said with suitable activation.
Yeah,
That's the
chemical
key,
activation.
because they're no longer zwitterionic anymore. You said
James,
it was. No, you said.
amino acid,
You said
sulfur
peptide formation
trioxide,
in water
dipeptide.
was exergonic. In the very paper, when you were showing Lee Cronin's work, where he showed delta G was positive, it was endogonic, you said it's exergonic.
No, I didn't say it was exergonic. What the
You
hell are talking
absolutely
about?
did. You said it's exergonic.
It's endergonic.
Boy, James Tour sounds very photosynthesis right now.
I know that it's endergonic.
No,
Look at
you
this
go
slide.
back to your video when you were discussing Lee Cronin's work, you said it's exergonic.
Nature.
Got a wonderful Simpsons reference from Otaku X. Horrific, deplorable violence is okay as long as people don't say any naughty words. Actually, is that a Simpsons reference or which? Oh God, which show is that? Because I know the quote, but I can attribute it to so many different things, like simultaneously in my head. Oh no, that was South Park. South Park. Of course, it was South Park. Sorry, getting a little mixed up there. I'm tired. It's only 12:16 in the afternoon. I'm not fully awake yet.
Does this with chemical activation,
And-
lowers
and-
the
and it
activation
goes
energy,
back the
and it
other way.
happens. And then the barrier is very large.
All right,
James, you're
you
flailing
asked
here.
me one specific question.
Amino
You
acid,
showed me a
sulfur
reference.
trioxide, dipeptide. What's wrong with that?
All right,
Explain
I'll
to
tell
me.
you what's wrong. Don't move your slide. Don't
yeah.
move your slide.
Okay,
I'll
no,
tell
I'm
you
not.
what's wrong. You look right there.
Don't move your slide. I'll tell you what's wrong. Hey, look, the snowman from Ski Freeze in the background over behind Dave's head. He's gonna get you, Dave. Yeah, South Park. It was from the, wasn't it from the movie? I think it was actually from the movie. Referencing Cartman's V-chip and the like.
You look right there at the first one is alanine, phenylalanine, alanine, phenylalanine, serine, phenylalanine. None of them bear a carboxylic acid side chain. None of them bear an amine side chain. Don't you
Again,
see how he cherry-picked this
goalposts.
thing? So it can only... I'm not
Goalposts.
moving any goalposts.
Is this
Thank you, Baba Ali. Sometimes hydrogen is referred to as proton in base alkaline chemistry. Makes complete sense. Okay, now we're talking. Given the kind of bonds that hydrogen, just straight up basic, one proton, one electron hydrogen likes to make, that makes a lot more sense now. Hydrogen's very weird.
prebiotically plausible dipeptide formation?
Not,
Did you give that?
not the dipeptide I showed you.
For these
If you don't even
residues,
have
for
one,
these
if you don't even have
James.
one. Yes, this
don't
only
even have
gives
one.
you the, it doesn't give you the functional ones.
Amino acid, sulfur trioxide, dipeptide.
Only for half of
in
the amino
water.
acids.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
But you're not
You
even
can't-
conceding that.
You have to have 20
You're not even
amino
conceding
acids. That participating. They load the chemistry. They keep selecting the ones that only work under their conditions. They can't do it with the free carboxylic acid. They can't do it with the free
You
amino.
pretend that peptide bond formation in water is impossible. I've showed you all
I
of
didn't
that
say it's
research.
impossible if you have activation. You only said that in your second series, and you know it.
No, you've never
You
said.
know it.
No, you've never said with activation it's possible. You keep saying it's impossible, and you even play the clip of me going, "I have references," and then you just cut it off.
Only.
And you continue to
Don't you
pretend that the research
understand?
isn't there.
Of course, I explained.
Yeah, there was a split second there where I was off sync. I didn't know if I had said what I said there and you actually heard it or not. I was going to say it's been a while since I watched the South Park movie. I may watch it again this evening. That was all I said during that moment.
Explain this to you, even with Bruce Lipshitz's, was proper activation in his...
Bruce Lipshitz's research was not prebiotically relevant. I never said it was. I was just having a chemist explain how you're wrong, because it's useful.
No, but I'm saying the activation part was there. The activation part. Do you have another
what
specific
does that have to
question?
do with sulfur
Gi-
trioxide?
Bring up another.
Are you saying sulfur trioxide?
Yeah, I've been pretty good on checking the mic and making sure everything's copacetic, but this time I just screwed up. I noticed you could hear me shift slightly while the video was playing, and I'm like, God damn it. Yeah, my audio's mixed up again. Ugh. I didn't figure what I'd said earlier was that important and anyone would care, but yeah.
Trioxide's not prebiotic.
Hey, at least I'm honest. I make mistakes. I'm like, yeah, screwed up there. I swear there's some people who probably try to gaslight their audience. My mic wasn't muted. No, it wasn't off. You didn't hear me burp there. What are you talking about?
Fire. I only remember this one. Do you have another question for me?
Uh-huh.
You have another question for me?
The question.
Come on, bring it on.
There's no
You have another question for me? Come on, bring it on.
no question. I explained a bunch of research about peptides and RNA that you're pretending isn't real. Right? You're just shifting the goalposts about lysine, and I'm showing you another paper.
Mr.
where Pounder
Farina!
got it.
Here!
What do you want me to
There it is. There it is. Mr. Farina.
Go! You don't quit. You just talk.
Why
Show
would
me
I
the chemistry.
Why would I try to draw
I told you I would
structures?
speak to you as I would speak to any
James,
graduate student.
if
And I would
I-
tell
Regarding the South Park movie, I caught it as it premiered in a theater. I was it was 99, so I was in the tail end of 8th grade. It was the summer between 8th and 9th grade is what it was. Which resulted in me listening to the soundtrack a ton in the summer before 9th grade, playing Super Nintendo and stuff. It was pretty great. Actually, no, at that point it would have been PlayStation. No, I had my PlayStation guy because I got that in 98. And I probably still went back to the Super Nintendo.
them to come to the
If
board
I
and
wrote
write.
this,
Come to the board and write.
if I wrote
Show me
this
the chemistry.
scheme on the board, would you suddenly accept it? Why are you so obsessed with me using
Because
chalk?
you can't show a chemistry that's going to give you the 3-5 to the exclusion of the 2-5.
You're
You mentioned
jumping
mock
around
marilynite,
like crazy.
and I showed you 37%.
This is called the Gish Gallop, everybody. This is called the Gish Gallop. Oh, peptides? You got peptides? Okay, you don't get the lysine residue. Oh, you got the lysine residue? Well, you can't get the 2' linkages. Oh, they got the 2' linkages? They can't get this. This is his tactic. I'm showing a mountain of research that invalidates all of his objections, and he's just denying it. I don't care what any of you guys are saying. None of you have any capacity to read this literature, and you're just blindly believing James. You have no idea what he's talking about.
You know, scorched earth for Dave. What does it really matter in the grand scheme? This clearly did nothing but improve his standing on a hole, so gamble paid out, but damn, he's being savage.
This session, I have a couple of comments. One is we'll have
I don't give a fuck about your comments.
the opportunity for the
You look like a guy who was on a government watch list, if you want me to be honest. But Krish, that's an ad hominem. Yeah, I know. Don't care about his comments. Dude seems like a douchebag. So there.
audience to ask questions at the end, so we'd appreciate it if the audience would not ask questions at this point.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Number one. Number two, I
Shut your cake holes, you bastards.
want to make sure everybody in the audience understands the term exergonic and endergonic. So that has to do with the free energy change, the standard free energy change in a chemical reaction. If the standard free energy change in a chemical reaction is negative or
Let the record show that James was erasing his lines on the chalkboard. Tor.
exergonic, it means the reaction goes in the direction as written. If it's positive, that's endergonic, and it goes in the other direction.
Yep.
So just to clarify that.
And modifying the carboxyl moiety makes the reaction with the amino group work. So that's great.
Okay, and then lastly,
Gotta admit, that's some premium ass chalk to erase that cleanly.
argument that you guys are having, the debate, I should say, that you're having about the nucleosides, I don't hear anything about the stereochemistry.
Fair point, Zumi. Fair point.
I've already given him.
I mean, it's just me being an asshole, but fuck it. The guy probably wouldn't like me much, so I'll be an asshole. Right now, I don't like him in this debate.
Stereochemistry of all small molecules.
But it's
I've
Right.
conceded that.
That's my third prompt, so
I've conceded
we'll
it.
get to homochirality. That's going to
fair
happen
enough,
in a
but
second.
that is
Okay.
so important, of course.
Yeah, it's very important, but I conceded it so
Dave said homochirality.
I can just get to these other things. Right. Okay, polysaccharides. I want to take two of these and couple them together just to make a dimer. That's it, just to make a dimer here. Make a disaccharide of glucose.
The beautiful framing of Dave just waiting, blocking Tor, drawing his crap, blocking the view of Tor, drawing his crap on the board. These guys don't even realize some of the poetic symbolism that they captured in this moment.
What we've established here.
Is it Christmas on this board? Because all I see is a bunch of ho-ho-hos. Or, you know, Poplar and Get Well.
Is that in this coupling, this is down. This is the alpha configuration at that center. We've also established that this hydroxyl did not participate. This hydroxyl did not participate.
Yes, I dropped a Memphis joke a moment ago. The Poplar and Get Well line. Guess I felt I needed to explain it. Ho, ho, ho.
Participate. This hydroxyl do not participate. In order to do this biologically, not prebiotically.
These hydroxyls do not participate. What? Do they get a choice in the matter, or are they banned from it? Oh, these hydroxyl groups can only enter in the back. What? We got some kind of chemical segregation going on here? Explain, Tor. Explain.
But biologically, you have to use an enzyme that has about a thousand amino acids in it. So the probability of that forming randomly would be 20 to the 1,000th. I mean, it's just a crazy big number. If something's bigger than 10 to the 50th, you don't have enough time in the universe. Here, you wouldn't have enough time in a billion universes. Is there any chemistry that you can show me that's prebiotically relevant that would do this coupling? And you will say, oh, I argue that only
So you get the compound, and it looks like if you find another compound, and they do the do, and there you go. So you got this OH group, you got this OH group. I don't know what the squiggly line means. That's a straight line. There's a straight line. So the squiggly line becomes a straight line to an O, and then you got the O bonded there. So you got some stuff that goes. Where's the reducted? Where's the products of this? There's stuff left over. Where does that go? Is that what this is? I'm confused. Because you got hydrogen and oxygen that need to go somewhere from here because you're left with one oxygen bond and these carbon bonds. Or is that what the squiggly line's partially accommodating when it becomes these I don't know. I can almost read these charts, but not well enough. But I feel like some free chemicals are missing here. Or are they just, no, they wouldn't be converted into heat. The atoms would still stay there. It's the bonds breaking and energy levels lowering that would be heat. God damn it, now I'm taking this stuff seriously. Your chart confuses me, James, and it does not accommodate for my understanding of physics. Please explain.
Enzymes can do this. You don't have any enzymes because you couldn't make them here.
You don't have enzymes. Just 0 to 10 instantly. Let's go back.
That would do this coupling. And you will say, oh, I argue that only enzymes can do this. You don't have any enzymes because you couldn't make them here. You couldn't make them there. No enzymes. You're lost. We already established you don't have enzymes. There's no enzymes yet on the prebiotic earth. You couldn't make them. You're clueless on that.
Okay, time is up.
Shouting is totally an argument. Professor Dave, 2023.
I showed peptide formation and I showed RNA formation, and this entire talking point is a non-starter.
When you can't do it with half of the amino acids, you didn't make it with the peptides. When you can't control that 2,5 linkage that's 30 to 70% 2,5, you haven't made.
No, there's a metric fuck ton of amino acids out there, but life as it exists on this planet only use about 20. However, life on other worlds could very well use different ones that would behave different ways, and some of the compounds that are poisonous to us, like hydrogen cyanide, could actually be perfectly usable and a standard element of other creatures in hypothetical other worlds, which creates issues on, for example, would we actually be able to eat and gain nutrition from life on other worlds? And it depends on if the chemical makeup happens to be compatible. But one of the things about focusing on origin of life stuff is that they're hell-bent on focusing on just life as we have it. And a lot of times they ignore any of these chemical reactions going on, regardless of the particular compounds used, which is where I think a lot of James's, Dave's research sources go. And then in some cases, it's not the exact same compounds, but it's the exact same methodology demonstrating that there is no issue here. And indeed, if you were going to create synthetic life, that would actually be the best thing to do, debatably, is make life that is actually completely incompatible with life on Earth. Something that uses different amino acid sets, uses different structures, but would effectively be the same molecular processes in the end. It's sort of there's more than one way to skin a cat things, which why you'd skin a cat is beyond me. I guess you're talking about like a big wildcat or something, but yeah.
Any functional nucleotide.
Okay,
so you don't have those two.
You're calling Shostak a liar because functional RNA was the first two words in the title of the paper. So you're actively calling
You remember what I told you about the title of the paper?
Again.
Remember what I told you about? It's a bunch of hype. That's why I said, Mr. Farina, show us the data. Show us the data. And you said you read.
Show us the data. Dun, 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 dun. Great, now I want to make a crappy rave song with that sample.
The paper, and you couldn't find
I showed you a bunch
couldn't
of
find
papers
in there how much 2,5 he has.
You just start
Shostak
shouting
is
and
very
then people
careful.
clap for you.
He would supply that number.
Okay, James. So check it out. You're completely unhinged and wrong about everything we said about polypeptides and polynucleotides. However, let's take that out of the equation, okay? Because you said you're going to give me all the molecules, whatever you said earlier. Will you concede that this is a perfectly viable explanation for biologically relevant polysaccharides?
You only came out with that in your second series. In your first video you said these just keep hooking on the end. Only when I nailed you on it did you come out in the second your second one and say, I meant it had enzymes. Okay, and in truth, with enzymes you can get it, but you don't yet have enzymes.
You're talking about peptides.
You don't
You're
have
just
enzymes.
lying about what I said.
That's why I put polysaccharide number 3 to show that you couldn't make enzymes.
You're wrong, and we do have enzymes.
Ooh, polysaccharide number 3. Does that go with red food dye too?
Enzymes, but if you'll grant me the enzymes anyway in this magical world that you've invented, where will you concede that this is a perfectly viable explanation for biologically relevant polysaccharides? Enzymes did it, just like they do today. Can you wrap your head
James Tor feverishly scrolling on his touchscreen laptop.
around that, James?
Give me a minute to wrap my head around it.
Give you a minute to know what enzymes are and what they do?
Just give me.
If enzymes exist, can we get biologically relevant polysaccharides? Yes or no?
Here is the enzyme
the answer is yes.
that do this.
I would say the answer is yes. If a polysaccharide's made of enzymes or involves enzymes in its production and enzymes exist, then I'd have to say yeah.
This is the enzyme that does this. It is 98 kilodaltons. It's 20 to the 842. That's 10 to the 1094 possible scenarios. If you have anything more
is that
than
the enzyme that does this
10
today,
to the
or is that the
50th,
enzyme
you don't
that
have
did this
enough
4
time
billion years
in our
ago?
universe. In 14 billion years.
Wow.
I just want to know what the hell a kilodalton is. Is that like a unit of measurement for like Japan's revenge because of the bombing of Pearl Harbor and Nagasaki? Is that what a kilodalton is? I don't know, but that's what I heard.
Big numbers,
Yeah,
guys.
big numbers. So this is the type of enzyme that you would have to have.
So this is an enzyme that exists today.
Yes.
And is the product of 4 billion years, or however many billion years of evolution. Not sure when this exactly came about. Is it possible that another enzyme that doesn't have this exact sequence could perform this chemistry? Yeah?
Well, let's take a look at that.
I mean, or you could just answer the question.
Let me tell you something. Let's take a look at that. This is a little molecule, right? This is a little 6-carbon molecule.
Sure.
You know what it took to make this? It takes 11 enzymes, 4 of them unique, and
You weren't supposed to tell me what it actually was, Kilodalton. Okay.
4 activators, and these 15 steps today to make it. You're telling me on an early Earth there was some enzyme that magically put this molecule together. This takes 14 enzymes.
You're talking about a monosaccharide?
This is
James, remember Benner's research?
Monosaccharide. This is 10 to the 65,000.
James, foremost reaction makes sugars. What are you talking about? You're talking about
because
ribose?
they've never been able to separate those. They've never been able to use those sugars for anything.
What do you mean?
Because they're so contaminated. Name me one person that has name me one person. One person that has,
They can't use the sugars because they're so contaminated. What are you talking about, James?
has made a stereo-controlled reaction to make glucose, and that could ever separate it from the mess that you get.
Why
Zero.
Why would they have to separate it?
Nobody.
Why would they have to separate it?
You have to separate
Why?
it.
You have to separate it in the lab because you need to characterize it because you're a chemist.
No,
Nature doesn't need
You gotta keep them separated.
to
Take
do
it
that.
on to the next step. There's so many.
Molecules that are in a mixture can't do chemistry?
What did Lee Cronin tell you? In the foremost
I don't know. He's
reaction,
not my
you
favorite
get
scientist, like you
billions
say.
of compounds.
Yeah.
In seconds to hours, you get billions.
And that's why they do all this research on mineral surfaces because it tamed.
The mineral
remember
surface didn't.
taming the
The mineral surface didn't take care of it. You want to get
No, it
into
did.
what Benner did?
Remember the NMR spectrum? Remember
Okay,
the billions of compounds?
Okay,
and the
you want
NMR
me
spectrum
to
that you
address
can't read
Benner's
because you're a
problem?
buffoon?
Here's Benner's problem.
You can't read because you're a buffoon. Oh man, we've been going for an hour and a half, but we're already an hour through this. Do we wanna try to power it through to the end? Because I could make this a one and done. I have the time. I have the energy. Well, I don't have the energy, but I mean, I can make it happen.
All right, you want me to address that? We'll address it. All right,
Foremost gives you sugars. I'm sorry, James. I don't know what to tell you here. You're just in denial of reality, and it's unfortunate that you cannot read a 13th NMR spectrum.
Here's Benner's reaction to make his 4 compounds.
Sure.
Here's his reaction, okay? So here he goes through this. What did he do? Here's the experimental procedure. What he did is he silated it. He silated it with this NO-bis trimethylsilyl-trifluoroacidamide. He silated it, he ran, and then he filtered it twice. It was filtered twice before it ever got on the GC to filter out many of the things.
Because he's doing characterization, James.
No.
He has to verify what
he's
he
telling
got.
us he made 4 compounds. Here's the 4 compounds he says he made, okay?
James, do you understand?
But what do you think all these other peaks are? What are all these other peaks that he's even filtered out?
He got 5 different sugars.
Now, let's even just say it was 4. Let's say he just made 4.
This is pathetic.
No.
You're covering for the fact that you can't read a 13C NMR spectrum.
Here he gives his half-life. He gives the half-life of each of these compounds on his borate glass, on his colmanite. Here is the half-life. You know what half-life means? That in a few hours, half of it is decomposed. What did it decompose into, Steve Benner? I asked Steve Benner this very question. You said it has a half-life. What did it decompose into?
And then he never got back to you because he's tired of you
slandering him on the internet. And you know what Steve Benner said to me? You know what Steve Benner said to me? He said nothing. He answered every other question but that. Then, so I wrote to him back in January. I tried to understand from him, how did he get that? Now, let's say he did have just 4 compounds, and he made 200 mers. That would give you 10 to the 120 different RNA molecules. 10 to the 120. Remember, 10 to the 50, 10 to the 90 is the number of elemental particles in the universe.
Okay, we're a little
in the
bit
universe.
These numbers are
This guy made
Dr.
10 to the
meaningless for
120
shock value.
different molecules. It's totally useless. Totally useless.
Have you seen this
is what
one
they
by
do.
Joyce?
We're a little bit over, so we need
Okay,
to go
I'm
now
done.
to the next
All right.
volley.
So, who asks now? Okay.
Is on me? All right. Let me get to my start. Okay. Okay, let's talk homochirality. Living organisms use L amino acids for proteins and D sugars for nucleic acids.
I've given you all the chirality. I've given it to you.
Yeah, this is my 2 minutes, James. Keep quiet. So first it should be noted that Dave doesn't know chemistry. Farina had to teach James the definition of homochiral. He was using it improperly. But more importantly, James either fumbles or ignores all the research in this area. This all started when I cited a singular paper talking about stochastic crystallizations of amino acids. In his content, James deflected to another paper, complained about EE and yield for a while, and totally ignored the data in the paper, referring to this train wreck as having a field day, compared with my ability to actually discuss the paper properly. If James would like, I can get him up to speed on stochastic crystallization tonight. But to give a brief overview, we know that threonine and asparagine crystallize as one enantiomer. Research has shown glutamic and aspartic acid to do the same under metastable conditions, plus co-crystallization of all others in tandem with asparagine at yields and EEs James pretends aren't real. Beyond
So, is all this basically fancy speak as saying sugars will form? Is that what I'm interpreting? Or am I incorrect on what the compounds we're talking about are? I don't know anymore.
this, deracemization has been demonstrated via sublimation, so even racemic crystals can become enantiopure. Donna Blackman has done a lot of work in this area, so James decided to quote mine her like crazy in his content, pretending some things she said about parity violation somehow describe homochirality in general. In reality, her review, Spoilt for Choice, from way back in 2007, already summarizes many of the ways homochirality can have come about, which means we don't know precisely how it happened, only because we know of so many feasible options. Then there is research showing how homochirality can have evolved at the polymer level rather than the monomer, but still prior to the emergence of life, and then more research discussing homochirality after the simplest life emerged. Here is a handy chart depicting all the possibilities, so there are...
And all this is basically saying is that the handedness, so to speak, of the compound, since there's a left-handed bias or something to that effect in structure, you know, could have happened before a lot of the compounds were ever made and life ever got going. Thus, the decision was already effectively made, quote unquote, in, you know, the prebiotic earth.
There are lots of places for us to begin this discussion.
Okay, I just want you to understand what the man has just done, and he keeps doing, is he's reading exactly the script from his YouTube video. He cannot...
Wow, he's reading the script from his video, the facts he put together. Maybe his video is based on the script. Ever think about that?
Speak chemistry on the fly. He's reading the script from his YouTube video.
But then again, no, he wrote this for the debate, but it's irrelevant either way.
That's exactly what he's doing. So let me answer this.
Because it's 2 minutes, and I like to pack
Look, I've already given him the chirality. I gave it to him, but he has to come back to this because he's got nothing else.
You keep saying we're clueless about
so
homochirality,
your article,
so
Spoilt for Choice, what you said, your exact words, they're here on the screen. You said, Mr. Farina, you said, spoilt for choice, we know of too many ways that homochirality can have arisen to say for certain which one it was. Her own words, unquote. I got this from his YouTube video. Well, that's not what the title is. Let's read the title with me. Spoilt for Choice, Assessing Phase Behavior Models for the Evolution of Homochirality.
Wow.
He said the title...
How childish can you get? Holy hell. Wow.
Title was one thing and it's a totally different thing. Now, he goes on. Let's look at the paper. Let's look at the paper. Now, she says, she's giving here, she says, in this magazine, Chemistry World, which is not a mainline journal, she says they are talking about models and she's disagreeing with them. He says they are saying it's spoiled for choice. This is not what she's talking about. She's talking about phase behaviors here. So this is the magazine she was quoting from. And then she says, solution solid equilibrium, time is on our side. Dave says time is on our side means that, that time doesn't hurt us instead of this. That's not what she meant. She's just using this as poetry in the sense that she says the next one, good things come to those who wait.
James, you said show me the data.
I'm showing you the data. What
you
she
remember
shows
when you couldn't read this paper?
What
it was
she
really
shows
funny.
in her own paper, she shows two methods, a kinetic method and a thermodynamic
you're
method.
running out the clock. I don't know what you're talking about. I showed you.
As soon as James' MO with this is just run out the clock. And yet, once here in just a sec, I'm going to hit a good stopping point and take a break because I definitely need it. Man, we got way further than I thought we would in this, but a lot of it is just letting the video play. There's not too much to say. There's brilliant moments to laugh, and otherwise it's just pay attention to the interchange between the two.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. The thermodynamic method and the kinetic method. So here she says simply sublime. Are you going to say that that means something? No, she's just using the term. Now look at her references. So here's the reference section. You go to those references.
Do you know what
her
sublime
own
means?
References.
Sublimation.
Of course, sublimation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Sublime. This is, but she's saying simply sublime. It means sublimation. She's not. There's nothing deeper here. You're trying to say that there's something deeper to time is on our side. You even said in the video, James has to understand
by which
that.
crystals become
let's look at her papers.
You're
Let's look at the
pretending it
papers
doesn't
that she
happen.
cites. This is a review article. So we go to the exact papers. Here's her exact paper. She's using chloroform. She's using DMSO. How relevant is dimethyl sulfoxide and chloroform in a prebiotic
You're cherry
sense?
picking. A lot of people do this in
What do
water.
you mean I'm cherry picking? You put it under non-prebiotic conditions, you can get synthetic chemistry to go. This is from Donna Blackman's own paper. This is the paper she cited in the review. The review doesn't give you detail. Then you look up
You're
the other.
cherry picking one aspect
wait,
of the
this
review.
is her review article. Let's
Remember
look
when I
another
said he
paper.
combs the experimental section for a tiny detail he thinks invalidates
Here
the
is the
study?
paper for sublimation. All right? Here's the paper she cites for sublimation. You look it up. This is a paper by Cooks. What you do is you take your material here, you take your material, and you put it in this.
What does it have to do with the origin of life?
Because we're going to see if it's really prebiotically relevant. You put it in a hot tube that's at 175 degrees, and right next to it, you put a collection system that's at minus 78 degrees. Yeah, on an early Earth, that's really going to be possible. And so you have something 175 degrees, something at minus 78 degrees,
trying to
and it's
demonstrate
sublime.
prebiotic relevance?
No, wait a minute.
You're
I'm not
trying to
done.
monopolize
So she
the
says
time,
it's sublime.
James.
She
She's
says
referencing a phenomenon that exists and then applying it to origin of life research.
In order for this reaction to work, she says this is her own paper. This is your paper, the one she cited. She says, if the first enantiomeric imbalance was brought to Earth by fractionation of the organic space dust,
which is totally possible,
via sublimation, and then it landed in a pond and magically crystallized under these very stringent chloroform DMSO conditions. You couple these two crazy hard things together, then maybe we could get it.
When the temperature goes
there it
down,
is. That's
things
your
crystallize.
paper. That's your
Holy
paper.
smokes.
Read the paper.
Now James is telling Dave to read the paper, but James won't read any of the papers Dave brought.
Look at the experimental. Look at the references. It can't be done.
This is complete
It's going to
incredulity.
be coming from one thing to the other. Can't be done.
Do you understand that we can get enantioenrichment by co-crystallization? You're going all over the place just so that you don't have to talk about the papers I'm showing you. Do you see all 12 of these amino acids are resolving at once? It's stochastic, so it's random every time, and you can get very high EEs. Remember when you pretended these
conceded
EEs
it
weren't
all
real?
to you, but I'm telling you, these are under amazingly stringent conditions
But they aren't.
that are very
But they
hard.
aren't. But they aren't.
But they are. But
No,
they are. I
but they
showed you
aren't.
the setup. I showed you the setup.
You showed me something that Donna referenced as a proof of concept that she then takes into account for origin of life research.
But you have
It's a
to do
completely
that.
separate paper.
No. The sublimation.
She's saying this is chemistry that has been
Look,
demonstrated
I've given
with
you
some
even
apparatus.
the amino acids I cited in that paper. That paper, you
James,
got 1% of the pure
time is now
material.
up.
Let's
You
put
got
it this way.
1%. It's a
One-
very
one
difficult
more
thing. But
statement.
anyway, I've conceded
You
that to
have
you.
made a 10-hour
You
course
keep
on
com- you keep coming back
and
to
you say
this.
homochirality, we're clueless about it.
You
and
just said
don't
homochirality.
show
Oh, there's
any
the
of
word.
this
There's the
research.
word,
You
homochirality.
don't show
You used
any
it
of this
over and
research.
over again in your videos until you
I'm not gonna lie, all this stuff is actually triggering stressors for me as well. Now I know why I didn't make it through the whole debate, because I think at this point it just became too damn much. Gonna wait for just the right moment to cut off though, since the moderator just called time on this thing. Once he gets them to shut up, we'll call it.
talk to Donna Blackman, you used it over and over again. You
Yeah.
have many references to homochirality referring to
in
small
your content,
molecules.
You talk about how we're clueless about homochirality all the time. That's why I show this to show you that we're not.
All right.
Crystallization,
Okay.
sublimation.
Okay, it's time-
These are
it's time to
processes
move to
by
the
which
next
this
round.
happens. Thank you. You can't hide forever, James. Can't hide.
Alrighty. That was something interesting. Sorry, of course it would end right as I take a bite into lunch. So it happens when you do it live and you're just like, whatever, let's have some fun. All right. We made it through technically most of it. We don't have too much more to go through. But I am going to call it here. We are going to make this a part 2 because it's been an hour and shy of 50 minutes that we've been going here. This has been a fun one, but yeah, as Zumi puts it here, more of an exhausting one. It's an ordeal. So with Hoven, there's a level of exhaustingness, but at least you can kind of recover from that quickly enough in small spurts. This is just painful to go through. But we will be hitting part 2 of it, if not later today, sometime soon. Just depends. I'm going to hop off and enjoy some of my Saturday. Y'all do the same. You know the usual places to find me.